Okay, looks like we are in. Hi everybody, welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. So today we will be discussing the environment and ecology portion from 2015 to 2020. Here I will be selectively going through the question paper where there are repeated themes and the questions which I find are important for the upcoming prelims examination, whether it be 2026 or 2027. So let's get started. So we'll be going through the 2015 to 2020 PYQs. So the first one, I've always told you that UPSC has a sweet spot on asking things about large mammals, and elephants are one such thing. Indian elephants and comparison between Asian elephant has been asked. This is, I think, 2020 question. We can actually crack this question with logic only, but it's better you learn few things about big mammals, big cats, etc. Like elephants, both Indian and Asian elephants, their differences. Then rhino. Maybe rhino is important. Hippopotamus is not that important because it's not naturally found in India. So that's one important thing. So that's the basic thing I would recommend you to look forward for. So the first question, the leader of an elephant group is a female. If you know, you know, but I'm just trying to solve this question with pure logic alone. Okay, so assuming I don't know this, okay, so maybe I don't know. The maximum gestation period can be 22 months. We know elephant is in fact the largest, or the one with the longest gestation period, the mammal with the longest gestation period. So this could be right, maybe, but I don't know exactly. An elephant can normally go on calving till the age of 40 years only. Again, something very factual. I don't know. Among the states in India, the highest elephant population is in Kerala. This is something we need to know few things about, because a state like Kerala, whether or not you are from Kerala or not, Kerala, though it has got a high level of biodiversity and almost the 50% of the state is comprised of Western Ghats, the sheer population or numbers of most animals are not that high compared to the states like Tamil Nadu or Karnataka for that matter. In most cases, Kerala has got a very similar flora and fauna as that of Karnataka. Though Karnataka has got a wide diversity of flora and fauna, there is a lot of similarity. And in sheer numbers, whether it be tigers, elephants or big mammals, Karnataka does have a greater sheer numbers compared to Kerala in most cases, not just about elephant, most cases. So it's a fact worth knowing. It's a trend. It's not just a fact, it's a trend that Kerala, though it has got a great biodiversity, the sheer numbers is less because of the lower geographical area of the place itself, the state itself. So if Kerala comes into the picture, there's a good chance that Karnataka will be having the similar characteristics but at a greater number. So having that particular knowledge or that logic is essential, because if you go through most of the species distribution, we know that Karnataka has got a higher number of species or higher diversity of things. Even for forest cover also, Karnataka has got a larger area. So this seems like a less probable thing, because though Kerala has got a lot of domesticated elephants as part of the culture, but it's not the state with highest elephant population. Most likely it would be Karnataka. I'm not saying it's obviously Karnataka. It's most likely it would be Karnataka. So in the southern states, Karnataka is one thing that you need to be extra, paying attention. A state where should be paying extra attention when it comes to environment and ecology. The same way, across India, Madhya Pradesh is one such another state. So Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, they are very crucial when it comes to sheer numbers of big mammals or biodiversity or number of national parks, etc. So keep that in mind. So with that knowledge, I can actually eliminate these two and arrive at a 50-50. So this is very factual. I don't know this exactly, but one thing we have heard, from our common folk knowledge, we have heard that there is a strong social structure to the elephant group, and female has got, it's a matriarchal in structure. That's a factual thing you need to know. So without any knowledge you could arrive at a 50-50, but to go ahead with that you need to be knowing that elephant is the social structure of elephants are matriarchal. So that's one thing you need to know, and by that logic, by that knowledge itself, you can arrive at the answer as 1A. So that's pretty easy if you know that it's matriarchal, and Kerala won't be the state with the highest population of mostly anything, let alone elephant, mostly anything. So that's it, and take this knowledge also. It's 22 months is the maximum gestation period, and it's matriarchal. This knowledge is essential because UPSC can ask a question clubbing few mammals including elephants, give us a match the following. Especially UPSC is keen on asking questions about the behavioral traits, whether it be matriarchal or it's nocturnal, diurnal or crepuscular, things like that UPSC tend to ask. So it's worth taking into notice. And one more thing, so this is another question from our Gallant test. This is something I would recommend you to go through, because CITES it's a document, it's a convention on prevention of illegal trade of flora and fauna. That's the basic thing. So you need to know a few things about Appendix 1 and Appendix 2 of CITES, because the question has been asked in UPSC as well. I'm going to be discussing that in this session also. So this is worth looking at. This is a question from Gallant test. So this is something that is very much in line with the UPSC demand, and you can expect such questions in the future as well. All elephant populations worldwide are included in Appendix 1 of the convention. For any convention, the Schedule 1 or Appendix 1, the one that's starting with the lowest number will be having the highest conservation potential or highest conservation standards. That's the basic thing. So Appendix 1 of CITES will be having the stringent or the most it will be given the most priority compared to the Appendix 2. Just the same way Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 of Wildlife Protection Act in India. So that's basic thing. So all elephant population worldwide are included in Appendix 1. This seems less likely because there are population of African wild elephant that are not part of Appendix 1, because there are significant population of that African elephant and they don't face immediate threat. Appendix 1 includes animals that face immediate threat. Appendix 2 includes animals that are not currently facing threat, but if the current situation goes unnoticed, they can end up in an endangered situation. So this is a less stringent, less alarming list. So Appendix 2 of CITES includes species that are not threatened with extinction but may become so without regulation. This is correct. This is wrong, because not all elephant population are included. All Asian elephant are included, but some African population are not included in Appendix 1. Take note of that. A species can be added to or removed from Appendices 1 and 2 only by the conference of parties. This is a factual knowledge, and you need to be knowing that, because in any inclusion or exclusion from these appendices need approval of the conference of parties, the COP of CITES. So that is also true. So this is wrong, and these two are right, and answer is only B. This is a question that very well reflects the themes of elephant, CITES, as well as a general understanding about the working of CITES. So I recommend again to go through the Gallant test question, and they were very much in line with the UPSC demand and the kind of questions UPSC is going to ask, or you could get information on how to approach these questions from this test itself. So that's it. Moving on. Again, a classic sort of question UPSC is usually asking, and we have already come across these sort of questions. With reference to India's biodiversity, Ceylon frogmouth, coppersmith barbet, grey-chinned minivet and white-throated redstart are. Generally, I've always told you that anything that ends with minivet, barbet, these sort of things will be birds. That's the basic thing, and you cannot always go by that, but generally coppersmith, barbet, minivet and also white-throated redstart, these sort of things are generally the names of birds, but there could be reptiles happening, because like bearded dragon is a iguana, so things like that could happen, but generally these sort of names, barbet, minivet, or something that has got a different colored throat like flame-throated bulbul, these are all the names of birds. So going by that logic, you can actually arrive at birds. The one issue with this question is that you might not be knowing these species as such, but you could generate an insight or an intuition as to kind of names what could be birds and reptiles, etc. Just like last time we have come across cicada and pond skater, etc. So pond skater, if you picturize that, if you have come across a water body, you might have seen that spider or large mosquito like insect that is floating around that water body, that is called pond skater. So try to picture it like that. That's one way you can imagine whether it be an insect or a bird or an amphibian. Another way is these sort of names. Again, take notice of these species, because UPSC could be giving these names in the options in the upcoming years. The same way the golden mouse ear question has been asked. We are going to discuss that in this session as well. The golden mouse ear has been asked in 2022, I guess, and prior to that, blue-finned mouse ear has been asked. So if you had just go through the PYQ, you would be easily getting that answer right. So the same way you should be going through these species. Remember these species, that's it. And you will be arriving at the answer. So that's about it. Nothing more than that. Just generally remember that this is something that ends with vet, barbet. These sort of things are generally birds. Okay. In rural road construction, this question can be easily solved with logic, but the reason why I took this question is because you need to be knowing few things about copper slag and geotextiles. In the upcoming years, UPSC will be definitely asking question about copper slag and geotextiles, because the same way UPSC has asked about steel slag, and geotextiles is something that UPSC is tending to ask, because it has been come across in options so far. And the geotextiles National Technical Textiles Mission is go full swing, and a proper full-fledged question about geotextiles can be expected in the upcoming years. So that's one thing. So how to approach this question logically, I'll be telling you that. Rural road construction and sustainability as the basic idea. So we know that if you have come across geotextiles, you know that it's something very much sustainable and eco-friendly. So anything that doesn't have any option that doesn't have geotextiles can be eliminated. So we could easily eliminate these two. We have arrived at 50-50. So these two options have got commonly cold mix asphalt and geotextiles as part of that. Then the challenge is to choose between whether copper slag or hot mix asphalt is the more eco-friendly version. So if you know that cold mix asphalt is already as part of the options we have eliminated, and we have gotten cold mix asphalt as part of a sustainable approach in rural road construction, we can imagine that. What is cold mix? Obviously meaning that there is no hot temperature involved or hot substances involved. So the asphalt will be mixed using some technology that doesn't require it to be heated up. And what is generally the practice? The asphalt is heated up. We usually lay our road using a hot mix asphalt technology, and we can picturize that. Always we have seen that road construction, there will be hot mixing of asphalt involved, and the laying itself actually involves emission of fumes, things like that. That's basically hot mix asphalt. And if you know that, definitely that the sight of hot mix asphalt itself is very unpleasant, and the whole emissions and the whole smoke and coming, it doesn't really sound very environmentally sustainable. Basic idea, eliminate that, and we will be arriving at the answer as 1, 2, 3. Learn about geotextiles and National Technical Textiles Mission. So that's important. Also try to just Google search about cold mix asphalt, how that is done. Okay, that's it. The question about copper slag has been asked, and steel slag also has been asked. Though these copper slag and steel slag are potential candidates for leaching of heavy metals, they are actually used in construction, durable construction. They can be used in construction as a sustainable material. They themselves are not very sustainable or eco-friendly, but when used in construction, they are sustainable or eco-friendly. So that's one thing to remember. Copper slag and steel slag. That's it. Moving on. Biochar. UPSC, I think, have asked about biochar in 2 years, I guess. Whether I don't remember it's consecutive or not, but they have asked about biochar in few options. 2 years, if I remember correctly, from 2020 to 2024. Biochar can be used as a part of growing medium in vertical farming. Vertical farming, you can imagine, usually we plant or cultivate horizontally, because that's how the land is working. So in vertical farming, artificial platforms are created, and that's how it should be cultivated. Basic idea. So mainly land use, plant stream increases land use efficiency, and biochar, from the name itself, biochar. Biochar maybe. Anything that contains biodegradable will be eco-friendly and a good thing. Generally, that's the norm. So this could be a part of growing medium. Charcoal is good material for growing plants. So this makes sense. When biochar is part of growing medium, it promotes the growth of nitrogen-fixing organisms. There is no need for much doubt whether or not a material like biochar won't be aiding in nitrogen fixing process. There is a good chance that would be happening. So there is no particular reason to doubt this statement. That's also a possible thing. When biochar is a part of growing medium, it enables the growing medium to retain water for a longer time. Again, retaining water for a longer time in general is a good thing. So biochar is definitely a good thing. So that's the kind of logic you need to have. Nothing more, nuanced or cutting edge you don't need to be having. The name itself sounds very eco-friendly, and these are all good things. So associating good things with good things is the basic logic. So that's the basic idea, and this could be right. And you need to know a few things factually, but I'm saying if anything like this comes up, biochar or bioreactors or anything of that sort comes up, generally it would be a good thing, and the net result will be good only. So most of the good things, eco-friendly practices or eco-friendly effects or outcomes would be associated with that good thing only. So that's about it. Whether it be only one, only two, just go for the positive approach. Something that is very specialized. For example, if biochar increases the amount of phosphorus in the soil or something of that sort will be, if such a statement is given, you need to be extra cautious. Other than that, something very general like nitrogen fixation or water retention, these are all very basic and general. Any specific thing like any particular nutrient like phosphorus, sulfur, anything that particular is given, you need to be extra cautious and take that statement and analyze it with another sort of logic. Okay, that's about it. Learn a few things about biochar. It's good only. Biochar is a charcoal-like substance. It's basically biocharcoal made from biomass and produced by heating organic material without oxygen. The same way, charcoal is being made, but the only difference is that charcoal is being made from wood or other substances, but here it's general organic material. So it increases soil health and store carbon, basic carbon sink. We have already come across that. So biochar is a good method for carbon sequestration. Last year also the question has been asked about laying the grounded basalt rock across fields for improving the carbon absorption. So same way, biochar is also a good source of carbon sequestration, good practice for carbon sequestration, and it's a good carbon sink. It's like a sponge, basic idea. And one more thing, that's about basic biochar. Remember this, okay? Picturize this and you will be easy to remember anything that comes about biochar. That's about it. Okay, moving on. This is the kind of question UPSC usually asks in ecology and science and tech. Last year also about mushroom has been asked similarly, and before that microorganism has been asked the same way. A general sort of question comprising of multiple species are being asked. Some species of turtles are herbivores. Okay, generally turtles are not strictly herbivores. They eat both plant and animal materials, but some species of turtles could be herbivores. That's a good possibility. That's possible. Okay, so some species of fish are herbivores. Actually, yes. Most fish are not herbivores. Remember that most fish feed on other fish or small insects, but some fishes like carp, grass carp, gaurami, these are all strictly herbivores. So that's one thing you need to be knowing. So by that logic, I think you can easily arrive at the answer. Okay, or no, yeah, we'll look for some species of marine mammals are herbivores. Yeah, if you have heard about dugong, sea cow, it's a strictly herbivorous mammal. It's a marine species, but it's a strictly herbivorous species. So that's one thing. See, if some species of anything is given, most likely they will be encompassing a wide range of characteristics, right from their herbivores or carnivorous dietary features to the way they reproduce, to the way they adapt to the temperature, everything. So if some species of anything is given, most likely the burden of proof is less, and that statement could in general be right. But pay close attention. If some species of snakes are mammals, if such a thing is given, then you should be extra careful about that, because that's actually not right. But I'm saying in general, these sort of things you should be knowing. Okay, moving on. Some species of snakes are viviparous. If you have heard about oviparous and viviparous, you know oviparous are the ones that lay eggs, viviparous are the ones that give birth to the young ones. And there are snakes actually like I think if I remember correctly, boas and vipers, they are actually viviparous. They give birth to live young ones, while snakes like cobra, they lay eggs. Okay, so that's the basic thing. So some species of snakes are, I think almost all the statements are right. So that's basically it. Okay. Only doubt, I think, if you have taken a positive approach, only doubt you might be having is about this fish, because in general these fishes are mostly carnivores. They'll be feeding on small insects, but few exceptions are these, like green carp and gaurami. So that's basic thing you need to be knowing. So all are right. So that's about it. Moving on. This is actually important because of late, anything about plastic, like the oxoplastic, the question that has been discussed in the last session, and also microplastics are very important, because more and more awareness and more conventions regarding plastics are being in news, especially with the advent of plastics treaty. India has not yet signed that, but India is on, discussions are going on. So these things are very important. Microbeads. This was asked in 2020, and back then it was not a very hot topic. Most of the discussions or most of the conversations was not surrounding around these plastics or microbeads. So back then it was not a very hot topic. So this was slightly difficult back then. Now I think most of you will be hearing about microplastics, microbeads, etc. So microbeads are basically small particles of plastics that are actually very small, that can end up in a bloodstream or can have a biomagnification effect. So that's the importance of that, because usually plastic won't be disintegrated into much smaller pieces. They will be remaining as they are, but due to the disintegration nature or the perishability or the physical disintegration of plastic to very small bead-like structures, not just they are at the level of micrometers, they can actually end up in the natural ecosystem. They can have a biomagnification and bioaccumulation effect similar to that of heavy metals. So that's the biggest concern about these microbeads, and they are actually they are not going to cause cancer in children. They are most likely harmful to this marine ecosystem, because we have always come across that thing. Because why plastics and marine ecosystems are connected? Because at the end of the day, all of the landfill, all of the non-degradable plastic or whatever solid waste is there will be ending up in the oceans. So in order to protect the ocean ecosystem, we should be starting from the land itself. That's the thing. So we may not make that instant connection, but that's the basic idea. Because to protect the marine ecosystem, anything, any solid waste, anything that is not degradable will be most likely ending up in water sources. From there to ultimately they will be reaching the oceans and marine ecosystems. So that's the basic concern about that. And the reason why single-use plastic are the push for banning of single-use plastic is because they are very detrimental to the marine ecosystem. So you might have heard about the turtles constantly suffocating because of the plastic bags obstructing their breathing, things like that. So that's the basic idea. So microbeads are microplastics. I'll show you a picture of that, so you'll be getting a better understanding. See, this is the kind of finger we have, like it's a finger, and the kind of size you can imagine. These small particles of plastics are called microbeads, and they are also called microplastics. And the biggest culprit of this is oxoplastics. Oxoplastics are, like last session I have discussed, oxoplastics are a special kind of plastic where they actually disintegrate into very small pieces. They are made that way in order to easily disintegrate, or for the process of recycling, but they are not very eco-friendly. The oxoplastics are the biggest culprits of microbeads and microplastic effect. So remember that. This is another question from Gallant, which is very much in line with this question. So phytoplankton, I have told you that there are primarily two kinds of plankton. Planktons are generally the organisms that float around in the aquatic ecosystem. So there could be phytoplankton. Phyto meaning anything that has got phyto meaning plant-like. Plant-like meaning they could most likely be a primary producer, meaning that they make food on their own. Zoo, just like zoology and botany, the same way. Zooplanktons will be planktons that could be feeding on others. So phytoplankton show a greater tendency for bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation. So imagine that. Of course, something that makes food on their own, the chances of bioaccumulation is higher on higher order those organisms on the higher order of food chain rather than the primary producers, because bioaccumulation will be much less in plants because they are making food on their own. But on the other hand, imagine a higher order species in food chain like tiger or humans for that matter. We feed on the ones that feed on these animals, so the chances of bioaccumulation is much higher for the non-primary producers, and which is much higher as we go high up in the food chain. So this is a good chance. This is right only. Prolonged exposure to harmful chemicals can lead to bioaccumulation in humans. This is exactly the reason why we have a Minamata Convention and also Convention against lead, arsenic, etc. Because prolonged exposure can actually cause accumulation in humans, especially in our adipose tissues, the fat tissues. These heavy metals can accumulate and they can actually be absorbed and stored in our fat tissues and can cause various health issues. So this is true, and this is the answer. Again, for Gallant test, very much in line with the UPSC demand, and this is something you can expect in the upcoming years. This requires a knowledge of types of plankton. So this way you can actually improve your knowledge, as well as you get very familiar with the way of UPSC style of questions and the way to solve them. Moving on, agriculture soils release nitrogen oxides into environment. If you know blue baby syndrome. Most of the agriculture soils will be having fertilizers that are based on, or that will be providing them with nitrogen. So oxides of nitrogen is a good chance. That's true. Cattle release ammonia into the environment. Some of you might know that cattle are a great source of methane gas emission, which is a greenhouse gas. But there is a good chance that you might overlook that they are also a good source of ammonia emissions, or release of ammonia or reactive ammonia compounds. So that's very good possibility. This is true actually. Okay, if you have read something about methane and you think that okay, they might have given ammonia in place of methane, and there is a good chance that you might go this question wrong. But cattle are actually, this is why cattle industry or animal husbandry is kind of a dilemma when it comes to sustainability, because they are the greatest source of methane emissions as well as ammonia emission, and the kind of impact they have on the land, or the kind of land density they have, and the pollution potential this animal husbandry industry has got is very high. That's the reason why we are slowly advocating for lab grown meats, as well as other sources of protein like insects, because they have got a greater protein density or energy density as compared to cattle. These are all bizarre ideas, but just keep in mind, because UPSC could be asking questions about this, because the basic idea about these two statements is the animal husbandry or the poultry industry and how polluting they are, and the need for shift from these for a sustainable or eco-friendly agricultural practice. So that's the basic idea. This is true. Poultry industry releases reactive nitrogen compounds. Yes, of course, poultry industries, they do release reactive nitrogen compounds into the environment, the same way agriculture soils does. See how similar they are. They have got at first sight you may think that raising a farm, raising cattle, they are very eco-friendly practice, but in reality they are not quite that eco-friendly. So keep that in mind. So these three are the right answer. So that's about it. Learn few things about this, and remember the ammonia factor in cattle and methane factor in cattle, as well as the nitrogen factor in poultry as well as agriculture soil. Remember that. Okay, so that's about it. Moving on. See, the question on mahseer has been asked in 2020, and this is bluefinned mahseer, but the species name is mahseer only. The same question has been repeated in 2020, and that too in a very easy fashion. Which of the following is not a bird? Meaning that these three are birds, and of course this mahseer is a bluefinned mahseer. In 2020, 2022 golden mahseer has been asked. Such an easy thing, just going through the PYQ itself you could get a very easy, very right answer in the first try itself. This is why I was able to correct this question, because I have gone through this PYQ. So I am recommending you again, go through the PYQs. You can easily get 5 to 8 questions right just from PYQ itself, and another 10 to 15 questions from the logic of PYQs. So again and again I am reiterating the importance of PYQs. So bluefinned mahseer, very important. It's in Kaveri river. This is a factual thing, but we can actually eliminate elimination is possible given the options is given like this, because Irrawaddy, if you remember, it's a river in Irrawaddy is actually a river in it's in it flows through Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, etc. It's a Southeast Asian river, and Irrawaddy dolphin, chances of Irrawaddy dolphin being found in Chambal river is very low, because Irrawaddy, Chambal is on the extreme western side of India, and Irrawaddy is more connected to the eastern part of India, and anything Irrawaddy dolphin will be in the eastern part of India, not the western part of India. So this is the most unlikely scenario to happen. And we know Chambal river is famous for gharials, and it's one of the most cleanest rivers in India. So that's one thing you need to remember. Eliminating that, you could easily get the answer. Actually, these Irrawaddy dolphins are found in Chilika Lake, but mostly in Irrawaddy river itself. And we know India, we have a Gangetic river dolphin and Indus river dolphin. Remember that also. Rusty spotted cat is found in Eastern Ghats. Remember this. Okay. Bluefin Mercer, Irrawaddy dolphin. For any species, few things I have always told you. Animal, you need to know IUCN status, distribution, and important features. So what is a Mercier? It's a carp-like feature, and it's an indicator of clean, fast-flowing rivers. Merciers in general are an indicator of clean and fast-flowing rivers. Remember that, whether it be bluefin or golden Mercier. So they are generally endangered species. Special notification or strict guidelines are given to those who fish in these waters, not to fish Merciers, and catching them is strictly prohibited. So that's one important thing. They are threatened due to dams pollution. Usual thing. Irrawaddy dolphin is also endangered. Myanmar, Bangladesh, the Southeast Asian part, and they are unlike Gangetic river dolphin, they don't have a beak. That's the important thing about Irrawaddy dolphin. They are found in Mekong Delta, Irrawaddy Delta, and Chilika Lake. This is the important thing. So knowing that Irrawaddy is a river in Southeast Asia, and the question has been asked about Chambal, which is in the western part of India, there is very less chance of something of that sort is happening. So Chilika Lake, it's in the eastern part of India, so good chance of that happening. Rusty spotted cat, remember, it's not an endangered species, it's just near threatened, that's it. And it's found it's the smallest wild cat. Okay, that's the biggest feature of this. And they are not threatened as such, they are just near threatened. Okay, meaning that they are not that much threatened, they are starting to feel the threat, that's it. They are found in the Eastern Ghats, that's it. Moving on, which of the following are the possible consequences of heavy sand mining in riverbeds? Again, qualitative assessment of a given statement. Heavy sand mining, obviously it's a bad thing. It's least eco-friendly, and we have heard about illegal sand mining, things like that. So this is a bad thing. So outcome of a bad action will be bad ecological outcomes. So pollution of groundwater, good chance. Lowering of water table, good chance. Decreased salinity, assess it qualitatively. What do you think? Salinity increase, whether salinity increase or decrease, which is a bad practice, which is a bad outcome. Of course, increased salinity in river is a bad thing. Salinity increasing beyond a certain limit is obviously bad. It can alter the pH, it can alter all the chemical and physical properties of water. So that's the bad thing to happen. So decreased salinity is not really a bad thing. It could be a good thing, but it's not really a bad thing. So heavy sand mining cannot actually cause decreased salinity, especially if water table is being lowered. If the water table is being lowered, there is a good chance that salinity will be increasing. Because if the water table, if it's at a certain level, there is a good concentration and there is a good insulation between the bedrock and the water levels or the groundwater. Once the water table is beyond a certain level or goes below a certain level, the water gets exposed to the heavy metals and the kind of dissolved or hard minerals or materials or metals that are found in the bedrock. So this is the reason why lowering of water table can causes increased salinity, increased alkalinity, as well as heavy metal toxicity in water bodies. So lowering of water table can cause catastrophic effects. This is not a bad thing. So eliminating that easily gets you the answer. So that's it. This can cause increased salinity in the river. Decreased salinity is not a bad thing. In most scenario, it's a good thing only. Okay. Moving on. This is another thing. Right now, UPSC has slightly shied away from asking questions about these protocols and convention. Up until 2023, I guess, UPSC has been constantly asking about these. But post that, UPSC has slightly shifted from this. So you could expect such a question, but it's fundamental and it's imperative from your end to learn about the fundamental protocols. So that's basic thing. Annex 1 countries. Cartagena protocol is regarding biosafety clearinghouse or the handling of genetic modification practices or genetic modification organisms, etc. So this is not connected. Certified emissions reductions. Okay. See, Nagoya protocol and Cartagena protocol, both of them are related to biosafety, genetic modification, etc. So emission reduction, this is not connected. So 2 is gone. And we easily arrive at the answer as Kyoto protocol. Clean development mechanism. So I have shared few details about this Nagoya protocol and Cartagena protocol as well as Kyoto protocol. It's worth looking into because UPSC could be asking something in the future. So Nagoya protocol is regarding biodiversity. It's a convention on biodiversity, the same way Cartagena protocol is. But Cartagena protocol, I don't think it's under CBD, but it's regarding biodiversity conservation. So it's sharing of benefits from arising out of genetic resources. That's the basic idea of Nagoya, access and benefit sharing. So if a pharma company uses neem or turmeric from India, India and local communities must get benefits. That's the basic idea about Nagoya protocol, access and benefit sharing. So that's the basic idea about Nagoya protocol, and it's about biological diversity. Remember that. Okay. Then Cartagena protocol. It's again again under the Convention of Biological Diversity, handling of genetically modified organism and living modified organism. So that's the basic idea. So transboundary movement of genetically modified organism, because see, if we are genetically modifying an organism and if any mishandling happens and they could enter the wild, they can have catastrophic or unexpected outcomes. So such a thing we need to be handling it with utmost caution. So that's the basic idea about Cartagena protocol. So it's advanced informed agreement. That's the keyword in Cartagena protocol, just like access benefit sharing in Nagoya protocol. So advanced informed agreement. So this informed agreement is a key term. For any agreement or convention on biodiversity or any conservation effort, its informed consent is needed, because if a community that is not well aware about the consequences of something and they are giving consent without any information, that's not a right way or that's not the ethical way to do it. So informed consent is key. When writing answers about mains, you should be mentioning this informed consent. Okay, so that's a good way to elevate your answers. So India is party to the protocol. Okay, that's one important thing. Whether or not India is party to a protocol or convention is also important, especially these foundational fundamental protocols like Nagoya or Kyoto protocol. So India is party to Nagoya as well as Cartagena protocol. Remember that. Kyoto protocol, emission gas. This you might know. This is a precursor to our Paris agreement. So reducing greenhouse gas emission and only for developed countries, binding targets. So this is actually binding, but only for developed countries. Right now, Kyoto protocol is not that important because Paris agreement or something that it's more advanced version of that is in place. And again, remember this keyword CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility, meaning that developed countries and developing countries will be having common goal of reducing GHG emissions, but the responsibility or the kind of effort that is being demanded from developing as well as developed countries are different, based on their respective capabilities. We cannot expect a country like USA and a country like Fiji, a small island nation like Fiji, to contribute equally when it comes to conservation, because the kind of scenario they are facing and the economic potential as well as the general situation they are both are facing or coming from are entirely different. So that's the reason why a common but differentiated responsibility is put into place, and the market mechanisms like joint clean development mechanism, emissions trading, joint implementations are part of Kyoto protocol. See, the issue is that USA did not ratify. As with any environmental or greenhouse gas or conservation related activities, USA is like a odd one out when it comes to most of these things. So again, Kyoto protocol, US has not ratified. This is a quick revision. If at all UPSC asks something about this, you should be knowing few things, because Cartagena about genetically modified organism, biodiversity, then Paris Agreement, global climate action, Minamata, we have discussed Mercury, Ramsar wetlands, sites wildlife trade, Basel Convention is regarding hazardous waste, and Stockholm is persistent organic pollutants. For example, persistent organic pollutants are like DDTs, things like that. They can actually remain in environment, and they don't disintegrate or decompose easily, and they can accumulate in living organisms, and they can cause biomagnification effect. Don't confuse with Basel and Stockholm. See, this is one thing even I had an issue, because they both deal with hazardous waste and toxic chemicals. Stockholm is regarding persistent organic pollutants, whereas Basel is regarding hazardous waste. So that's two different things. A chemical could not necessarily mean waste. It could be something that is used in industries. But Basel is regarding hazardous waste. So that's one thing you need to be extra cautious about. So moving on, AQI. AQI, given the worsening conditions of air quality across India, this is something you can expect in the upcoming years. So major atmospheric gases that are used for calculating air quality index is something worth looking at. Okay, this question can be handled logically very easily, but don't rely on that, because something as basic as AQI could be given as only 1, only 2, and that could land you in slight trouble. So it's worth looking at. I think there are only 8 gases that are mentioned in AQI. It's very easy to remember them. So try to learn that. Okay. But for this question, you can easily eliminate it, because for air quality, general concern would not be GHG emission. The most immediate concern will be regarding what? Pollution or adverse effect on humans. So methane is something that is generally harmless unless and until it's considered as a GHG. Other than that, methane doesn't really have a harmful impact on human health generally. So methane is not something that we usually associate with pollution other than GHG emissions. So methane can easily be eliminated. Again, we are left with 2 and 3 is right. So carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide is given. So we have to choose between sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide. So if generally we associate carbon dioxide with air quality, but think about that. Carbon dioxide and methane, they are both GHGs, meaning that the impact of them is mostly associated with increased global warming, not because of their polluting effect. So these two can easily be eliminated, and that's basically it. I think eliminating carbon dioxide will easily give you the answer as 2, 3, 4. So that's the basic idea. AQI, if I remember correctly, will be having carbon monoxide, NO2, SO2, ozone, ammonia, lead. So these are the basic components in AQI. Remember that AQI is very important. So learn about that. So moving on, again, this has been asked in 2020. I think 2020 or 2016. I don't remember exactly. But this is worth looking, because neem coated urea can easily be confused with other things, because we might associate neem coating with pesticides activity, because generally neem is a pesticide. But the issue but the main purpose behind this neem coating is actually to slow down the rate of dissolution of urea in the soil. That's one thing, and also to prevent the repurposing of subsidized urea for other industrial applications, to prevent black marketing or hoarding of urea. That's one another thing. And also the major purpose is to slow down the dissolution of urea. This way it is got a prolonged release effect, meaning that there is less chance of nitrogenous pollution. So this can be coated in mains answers, as well as remember in prelims that neem coating is a good practice for reducing the emission of nitrogenous or reactive nitrogen compound from agricultural soils. Also increased availability of fertilizer or nitrogen as a mineral for plants. And another practical impact is to prevent the black marketing of urea, because urea is heavily subsidized and given to farmers. So if they just engage in malpractice and transfer it to other industries, so they could be using urea for other practices. In order to prevent that, neem coating is done. So strictly to ensure that they are strictly used for agricultural practices only. So that's the basic idea, and remember this. You can quote this in answers, as well as UPSC could repeat this thing. Okay, so that's basically it. And remember these few perks of actually coating neem with urea. So neem slows down the urea into nitrogen gas, less wastage. Just like I said, it's a slow release, prolonged release capsule. Farmers need less urea, reducing fertilizer consumption, crop productivity, because higher nutrient availability. The nutrient is being released not all at once, but in a progressive manner, such that availability is ensured and there is no concentration effect. Then soil pest is reduced. It's a natural insect repellent. That's also a fact. So prevents diversion for industrial use. Again, unsuitable for chemical industry, reducing black marketing. Environmental friendly, less nitrate leaching. So neem coating is actually good for reduced nitrate leaching and reduced groundwater pollution effects like blue baby syndrome, etc. Improve soil health, encourages balanced nutrient release and microbial activity. Basic idea. So it's worth looking into, and that's why I've given this as an explanation for that. So I think we have got an idea about how these questions are being asked, and in the coming weeks we'll be slowly moving towards science and tech as well as modern history and the history part of the PYQs. So stay tuned for more and go through these questions, as well as I recommend you to go through our Gallant test questions as well, because see, these questions are very much in line with what UPSC could be asking in the upcoming years. So just going through these questions itself can fetch you a 5 to 10 mark advantage when compared to others. So I recommend you go through these questions. These are being made with utmost caution and oversight. So that's about it. Go through our Gallant test, follow our UPSC buffet, and stay tuned, and all the best for the upcoming examination. So that's it. Thank you.